Inter Miami's attack looks pretty lethal again this season, with Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez leading the charge once again. And on top of that, with the new signings of Fafa Pico and Tadeo Ascente, I feel like we're in a pretty good spot. And honestly, I was feeling pretty confident with how the squad was looking overall for this season, especially with all the competitions that we have to compete in. But I forgot something that was pretty important, and the chat reminded me of it on Friday's live stream. By the way, if you haven't already, you should tune into the live streams here on YouTube, where I talk about all things in Miami. I'll leave a link in the description. And the thing that I forgot was we need a backup striker. Like, who is going to be Luis Suarez's backup this season? And now I was like, okay, like it could be Tadeo Ascende. Like Tadeo Ascende could really fulfill that backup striker role, but the chat completely disagreed with me and they were not convinced, which I totally understand because his stats aren't really that convincing. And especially when you look at his heat map being primarily on the wing, so he could very well succeed in that wing role. So let's just take a look at our striker situation in this squad and see if it's good or not, and see if honestly if a backup striker is very necessary. But before we talk about the backup, let's talk about the main guy, our number 9, el uruguayo, el pistolero, Luis Suarez. So I don't know about anybody else, but when Suarez first signed for Inter Miami, obviously I was excited, but I did have my doubts. Obviously, we all know how bad Luis Suarez's knees are, like, and that's not me trying to be disrespectful. It's just kind of a fact. So I thought he was really going to struggle keeping up with the pacing of MLS and not really being able to catch up with play. But he honestly proved me wrong within the first couple of games, really. And he ended up playing 37 games in total in all competitions this past season with 25 goals scored and 12 assists. That is 37 goal contributions in 37 games, which is insanely good, especially for a 38-year-old. But that's the crazy thing. Like, he played quite literally in almost every single game. There was only maybe 3 times where he was left out of the squad. He was benched against Colorado in April. He didn't travel to Vancouver that one time. And then he didn't play a Leagues Cup game. And then he was called up to play in the Copa America to represent Uruguay as like a remembrance and to be honored. But other than that, he played every single game, which is great, right? But then it's like, well, what if Luis Suarez is not here? Because we did have Campana, and he fulfilled that role whilst Luis Suarez was gone, but now he's sold to New England. So Suarez is essentially our only striker for this season, and someone in the chat said, like, we have, like, about 60 matches this year, which honestly sounds insane. Don't quote me on that, but it sounds pretty insane. Let's talk about who we have currently on the team that could potentially fulfill that backup role. So we have the 2 new signings, right? Fafa Pico and Tadeo Ascende. Tadeo has played center forward before, not many games, and honestly, he didn't seem too convincing. He primarily played on the wing. So honestly, I probably see him playing on the wing this year. Fafa's the same way. He primarily plays on the wing. He can play center forward if needed, but I don't think Fafa is going to be doing that unless something really bad happens. But I feel like Fafa Pico wouldn't really be a bad option as like a pressing forward if we really needed him to play that role, especially if we have like 2 pretty good wingers on either flank. We also have Leo Afonso, who was already on the team. He broke into the first team last season, coming off the bench, playing primarily in that left wing role. He can play the center forward position, which honestly, I feel like we could probably see him play in the center forward position because our depth chart for the wing positions seems pretty full with Robert Taylor, Julian Gresso, Tadeo Ascende, Fafa Pico. Like, Leo Afonso is going to fall in the bottom of that depth chart. So if he wants to get minutes and if he can fulfill that role, I feel like the striker position would be his best bet. But I don't know how you guys feel about Leo Alfonso playing striker. In terms of bringing somebody in, let's talk about some of the rumors that Inter Miami has been linked with as of somewhat recent. Somebody that I've talked about on this channel before is Cuello from San Lorenzo in Argentina. I mentioned Cuello when I talked about the signing of Fafa Pico. I said that he was a very confident striker, a very poacher-ish striker, and he can be in the right positions to score goals when we need him to. But I feel like there is some risk with Cuello because I don't think he's that convincing to be anything reliable if something like season ending happens, God forbid, to Luis Suarez. And not only that, like, we have to get more international roster slots. We currently have 11 international players confirmed at the club. That's without including Maxi Falcon, who has yet to be confirmed officially by the club. So we have 11 roster slots. We have 11 players filling those slots. So we need to buy more if we want to bring in more international players, if that makes sense. So just to keep that in mind. And also, those Cuello rumors have really died, and we haven't really heard anything since like a couple of weeks ago. So maybe we won't see him come to the club. Another player that Inter Miami has been rumored to sign is Mateo Pellegrino from Vélez. He is an all and out center forward, so it's not like he can play the wings or anything. Like, he is a center forward through and through. In the 23-24 season with Platense, he played 40 games, 15 goals, and 1 assist, playing about 2,800 minutes. I mean, honestly, that might sound bad, but I mean, for a backup striker, it might not be the worst thing in the world. And to be honest, those rumors have died down as well, so we don't even know if this is going to be happening. And as a potential signing, and honestly, signing players like Pellegrino and Cuello, like I said, are huge risk. We don't know how good they're going to be for us, especially off the bench, because honestly, they have really tough competition ahead of them. I mean, like, there's no way they can be compared to Luis Suarez or even fulfill or even do as nearly as good of a job as him. So they're going to get criticized, I think, pretty heavily, especially if they're coming from abroad, taking up an international roster slot that we have to pay for. And like, I feel like it's going to be a lot of pressure for those guys, and they're just going to end up flopping. And honestly, the last category, I guess you could say, of players that I want to talk about are the youth guys. So if we end up not bringing anybody in, which honestly seems pretty likely, then we're going to have to rely on our youth academy players and some of our draft picks. Leo Alfonso was obviously a draft pick, but I already talked about him. But honestly, he looked very impressive when he did come on and play for the first team. He did look good playing for the second team as well, so that's a really good sign. So hopefully we can see something pretty good come out of Leo Alfonso this year. I don't want to put too much pressure on him either, because he is just a kid, and when you're coming out of a draft pick or when you're coming out of the academy, there shouldn't really be that high of expectations for you, because you're really not costing us anything. You're really not taking up that much space. We just hope that you can learn, improve, and grow as a player. So Inter Miami did draft 2 players from the Super Draft this season in Bailey Sparks and Michael Appia. Don't know if we're going to see Michael Appia. This is a kid from FIU. I think he primarily played on the wing. Originally from Ghana. Maybe in the future we can see him break into the first team. I feel like for Bailey Sparks, on the other hand, this guy could be a potential fan favorite. He's coming off of playing SMU in the ACC, which, if you guys don't know anything about D1 soccer here in the United States, the ACC is one of the highest levels of American college soccer you can play at the D1 level. And him playing at SMU for all 4 years, he captained the team in his senior year. It just tells you a lot of things. It shows maturity, it shows growth, it shows development. In his senior year, he started in all 21 games, scoring 9 goals and 10 assists. And he led the team to their 14th Elite 8 appearance, which is a huge deal. He went 6 for 6 from the penalty spot, which shows a lot of composure and maturity as well. And most importantly, he finished the year as the number 12th player in the country by Top Drawer Soccer. So this guy was obviously a really good player at this level in Division 1 soccer. Not saying that he's going to break into the Inter Miami first team and completely like throw everyone away. I'm not putting that expectation on him or that pressure on him again. But maybe we can see him come off the bench, or maybe see him play for the second team and get those minutes, get that confidence. And who knows, maybe he can end up being our backup striker and maybe be a really good player here for Inter Miami or in the MLS in general. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but this is Future Matt, and I wanted to clarify something on Sparks. He's actually a cam, not a striker, so I wanted to clarify that. He still is a pretty interesting player to keep an eye on, maybe for this season or for future seasons. But yes, he's actually a cam, not a striker. Maybe we can see him play in a more advanced position like a striker, but he does love to create chances, so maybe that is something to look out for. Sorry, back to the video. But yeah, it's just something to keep in mind of. Not saying he's going to be a game changer, but it's good to have that option. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think Inter Miami need to buy a striker? Do you think we need to use what we already have at the club? Do you think that the squad that we have now is already good enough to compete in all the competitions that we have this year? I would love to know what you think. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss my next video. And remember, feel free to tune into the live streams here on YouTube, and you can participate in all these conversations that I talk about on stream. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys in the next one.